The battlefield had fallen quiet, though the silence was not the peace of safety but the heavy stillness that comes when death lingers in the air. Smoke coiled from the ruins of homes, the acrid stench of burned wood and spilled blood blending into the night. The lonely soldier stumbled across the broken road, boots caked in mud and ash, his rifle hanging from his shoulder. He had seen too many bodies left where they fell, too many faces frozen in terror, yet his heart had not hardened. Beneath the steel of his uniform, he carried the remnants of a man who still searched for something worth saving. It was then, amid the faint crackle of embers, that he heard it, a sound so soft he thought it might have been the wind. A whisper, a sob. He stilled, holding his breath, and followed the noise to a barn half collapsed under the weight of fire and time. Its door creaked when he pushed it open, and the smell of damp hay and decay met him. In the corner, hunched against the broken beams, was a woman. Her hair was tangled and streaked with dust, her dress torn, her wrists bound with coarse rope. She lifted her face as the door opened, eyes wide with a terror so raw that he felt it in his bones. Her lips moved, and the words came out barely audible but sharp as a blade. "Just kill me fast, please." The plea pierced him deeper than any wound he had endured. For a moment he couldn't speak, the rifle heavy in his hand, as though her despair had chained him in place. He lowered the weapon slowly, raising his other hand in a gesture of peace. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said, voice rough from days of silence. She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You don't understand. If you see..." Her voice broke off, swallowed by shame. He crossed the room carefully, every step deliberate, as though approaching a wounded animal. Kneeling beside her, he pulled a knife from his belt and cut the ropes from her wrists. The skin beneath was raw and blistered, a testament to days of captivity. She recoiled when his hand brushed hers, curling into herself like someone who had been struck too often. He wanted to tell her she was safe now, but the words felt hollow in a place where safety was nothing but a memory. She whispered again, "You don't want to help me. Not when you see." Her fingers clutched at the torn hem of her skirt as if she could shield herself from his eyes. But he needed to know if she was hurt, if she could even walk. "Let me check your injuries," he murmured, though she turned her face away, silent tears streaking through the grime. He hesitated, then gently lifted the fabric, only enough to see. His breath caught. There, seared into the tender flesh of her thigh, was a brand. The lines were cruel and deliberate, a mark not of identity but of degradation. A symbol carved by men who wanted her to carry shame for the rest of her life, a permanent reminder of their power and her suffering. The soldier's stomach twisted, a surge of anger burning through his chest. He had seen battlefields covered in the scars of war, but nothing had filled him with such fury as this mark on her body. The woman sobbed, turning her face into the hay. "Now you see. That's why I begged you to kill me. I can't live with it. Everyone will know. I'm ruined." Her voice was strangled, raw with despair, as if the brand had stolen not just her dignity but her will to breathe. But the soldier did not recoil. He did not look away. Instead, he unfastened his cloak, worn and frayed from months of marching, and wrapped it around her shaking shoulders. His rough hands, so used to holding weapons, were gentle as he covered her, shielding her from the cold and from her own shame. "Listen to me," he said, his voice low, steady despite the storm in his chest. "They branded you to break you, to make you believe you are nothing but this scar. But they failed." She turned her tear-stained face toward him, disbelief etched in every line. "How can you say that? Look at me. I'll never be whole again." He met her gaze without flinching. His eyes, hardened by war, softened with something she had not seen in a long time, compassion. "You are still here," he said. "You survived. That makes you stronger than every man who tried to destroy you. That mark does not define you. It only proves that they were cowards, and you endured." For a long moment, neither spoke. The barn creaked in the wind, dust drifting through the slats of broken boards. She clutched the cloak tighter, the warmth of it a fragile shield against the cold hollow inside her. He waited, patient, his presence steady as stone. Slowly, she let out a trembling breath. "No one's ever said that to me," she whispered. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Then let me be the first. You are no one's shame. Not anymore." His words carried the weight of an oath, spoken not as a soldier bound to duty, but as a man who still believed in the worth of a single soul. In the stillness of that ruined barn, something shifted. The despair that had clung to her like a second skin loosened, just enough to let a spark of hope through. She searched his face, looking for pity or revulsion, but found neither. Only a fierce, quiet respect that warmed her in ways the cloak could not. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she lifted her head and met his eyes without flinching. And though the world outside was shattered, though scars could never be erased, in that moment she felt a fragile possibility, that she might not be lost forever. That perhaps, even branded, broken, and bruised, she was still worthy of being seen, not as a mark of shame, but as a survivor. The soldier stayed by her side, his presence a promise. And in the silence where despair had once reigned, hope sparked, fragile but alive. The village lay in ruins, the smoke of burned homes drifting like ghosts over the shattered streets. The lonely soldier walked slowly, each step heavy with the weight of survival. His rifle hung slack at his side, though he felt no threat in the silence. What lingered here was worse than bullets: emptiness, grief, the aftertaste of cruelty. He had seen too many towns destroyed, too many innocents caught between armies. And yet something inside him, a thread of stubborn humanity, made him search the rubble not just for danger, but for life. It was that instinct that led him to the half-burned barn at the edge of the village. Its wooden frame leaned awkwardly, blackened by fire, the air around it thick with the bitter scent of smoke. He was ready to pass by when he heard it, a muffled sound, almost swallowed by the wind. He froze, head tilting, listening harder. There it was again. A sob, weak and broken, the sound of someone still alive. His pulse quickened as he pushed the warped door open, the hinges groaning like a warning. Inside, the light was dim, filtered through gaps in the charred roof. Hay was scattered across the floor, damp from rain that had leaked through. And there, pressed against the corner, was a figure. A woman. Her hair hung in tangled waves, streaked with ash, her dress torn and soiled. Her wrists were bound cruelly with rope, her body curled in on itself like a wounded animal bracing for the next blow. The soldier's breath caught. For a moment he only stared, unwilling to believe another life had been left behind like this. Then her head lifted slowly, and he saw her face, gaunt and streaked with dirt and tears. Fear sharpened her features when her eyes met his. She flinched, pressing tighter against the wall. And her lips moved. Her voice was thin, trembling, yet it carried the force of despair. "Just kill me fast." The words struck him like a physical blow. Of all the things he had expected, this was not it. He lowered his rifle instantly, holding his hand slightly away from his body to show he meant no harm. But she only shook her head, eyes wild with something beyond fear, something closer to surrender. He approached slowly, each step deliberate. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said, his voice rough from disuse. She made a sound, half sob, half bitter laugh. "You don't understand," she whispered. "If you see, you'll know. You'll turn away like the others." The soldier crouched beside her, heart tightening at the bruises darkening her wrists. With careful hands, he pulled his knife and cut the ropes. She hissed at the sting of the freed skin, shrinking back when his fingers brushed hers. He wanted to say something to reassure her, but the right words eluded him. War had taught him many things, but how to soothe broken souls was not one of them. Still, he tried. "You're safe now," he murmured, though even as he said it, he wondered if safety was anything more than an illusion in a world like this. She shook her head violently, clutching the torn hem of her skirt with trembling hands. "No," she breathed, "you don't want to help me. Not when you see." He frowned, unsure at first what she meant. Then, with hesitant gentleness, he reached for her leg. "I need to check if you're hurt. Let me help." She turned her face away, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. But she did not stop him when he carefully lifted the fabric of her skirt. What he saw made his blood run cold. Branded into her skin was a mark. Deep, cruel, unmistakable. A brand not of ownership in the sense of cattle, but of humiliation, a scar burned into her flesh to strip her of dignity. It was a symbol designed to break her spirit, to mark her forever as something less than human. The soldier's jaw clenched, fury surging in his chest. He had seen horrors on the battlefield, but this was worse. This was deliberate cruelty, carved into someone too powerless to fight back. The woman sobbed harder, hiding her face in her hands. Now you see. That's why I begged you to kill me. I'm ruined. Everyone will know. I'll never be clean again. His hand trembled as he lowered her skirt, not from revulsion but from the storm rising inside him. He tore off his tattered cloak and draped it over her shoulders, shielding her from his eyes, from the world, from herself. His touch was gentle, careful, as if she were made of glass. Listen to me, he said, his voice steady though emotion burned beneath it. That mark, it doesn't define you. They wanted to strip you of your dignity, but they failed. She shook her head fiercely. Failed. Look at me. I can't live like this. Every time someone sees, I'll see it too. He leaned closer, forcing her to meet his gaze. His eyes, hardened by battles, softened with something she had thought she'd never see again, respect. You are still here, he said, every word deliberate, carrying the weight of an oath. You survived what they did. That makes you stronger than every one of them. That mark isn't your shame, it's theirs. Proof of their cowardice. Proof that you endured. She stared at him, eyes wide, disbelief battling with the faintest flicker of hope. No one had spoken to her this way. No one had looked at her without disgust, without pity. His voice held neither. It held conviction, as though he believed what she could not. Tears welled again, but this time they weren't only from despair. Her lips trembled. You'd really stay, even knowing what they did to me. He nodded without hesitation. If you wish death, I can't grant it. But, if you'll walk with me, I'll protect you until you can stand on your own. You're not ruined. You're alive, and that matters. The barn creaked as the wind pushed against its frail structure. The world outside was still ash and ruin, yet inside, for the first time in days, perhaps in years, she felt a fragile warmth stir in her chest. She pulled the cloak tighter around her, not only for comfort but because it felt like a shield, a promise that she wasn't alone. Slowly, she reached out, her hand trembling as it brushed against his. It was a small gesture, hesitant, fragile. But it was enough. Enough to tell him that she wasn't ready to give up, not yet. He closed his fingers gently around hers, steady and strong. Come with me, he said softly. We'll leave this place behind. And so they stepped out of the barn together, two broken souls carrying more scars than could be counted, but carrying them side by side. The smoke still hung over the ruined village, but as they walked, it seemed just a little less suffocating. For her, the mark would never vanish, but neither would the memory of the soldier who looked at it, and at her, and saw not shame, but survival.